Hey guys, thanks so much for joining. We're just going to wait for a few more people to register. Um, I was really excited for today. I've got not only an elite performer in the industry, but I've also got a very good friend of mine. And every time I talk to Tony, he keeps my energy levels very high. He's probably one of the funnier guys in the real estate industry as well, and got a good humor. And also, Tony, you're quite a good bloke as well, which is refreshing in the industry.
Am I supposed to comment on those things?
Yeah, you could say something.
Yeah, look, I'll give my parents a bit of credit. They certainly raised us with values, which is difficult in real estate because they get challenged all the time. The most direct way to the top can often be, yeah, cannot be the most ethical. So yeah, but the humor side of things, yeah, certainly like a bit of a laugh.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd love we've got quite a big crowd and a lot of people ask for the recording, guys. So I'd love to hear where everyone's from. So if you just wanted to put your name and what agency you're from in the chat, and also your role, if you're an agent, if you're a business owner, head of department, and we can try and tailor the questions to you guys. And please feel free to ask any questions to the great man Tony or myself as well. But so for those of you who don't know, my name's Jonathan Bell, and we've got Tony O'Doherty. Tony wrote over nearly $11 million of commission in the last 24 months. From very humble beginnings in Ireland, if you can't understand his accent. And I think what he's achieved in one of the hardest and most competitive marketplaces in such a short amount of time is something I probably haven't ever seen before in Australia, Tony. And I think I get a lot of people call me and ask me about our friendship and how you've done it. And I'd love to hear it from you. What are the things that you think you've done differently to have the exponential growth that you've had over the last 5 years?
Look, first of all, I'd like to start by saying it's the next five that excite me the most. Whenever I'm asked to do something like this, I have mixed emotions. My first one is I feel privileged that I'm at a stage in my career where people want to hear what I have to say. So my first one is positive, and my second one is, pull your head in, mate. You still make so many mistakes. There's so many gaps in your business. There's so much room for improvement. So I'd like to start by saying I see our greatest years are in front of us. I will acknowledge that the level we got to, in hindsight, we got there incredibly efficiently. I've seen, we were informed not so long ago, we were the fastest agent in Queensland's history to sell $1 billion in real estate, which to me is incredibly humbling to think of. If you mention 4 or 5 great guys and girls in our game nationally, and you compare a 5-year record of us to them, we come out on top every time. And that's something that I credit my team to. So when I got into real estate, the concept of EBUs, efficient business units or pods, were more predominant or dominant. So I think I started in a time where the awareness of how to succeed was greater than those who started before me. So I think if you were to speak to, any of the top agents in the country who might have 20 years more experience than I have. But I would argue that 10 of it is experience, but not necessarily of high value. I think there's a lot of people in our game that get it wrong for a long time before they start to get it right. And yeah, look, I think so. First of all, external factors were a big factor for me, and that's the IP, the intellectual property of the industry in general was higher when I got in, and it allowed us to penetrate the market faster. With that said, that's me focusing on the positives. The negatives of our battle was there was very established agencies and agents around us. So I would say to those of you who are out there who are not doing what you want to do or yet to achieve what you want to achieve, I would say you need to look internally. The reason why I'm at the level I'm at is because of me. The reason I'm not at the level I want to be at is because of me. The reason why my team is as successful as it is because of our actions together as a unit. And the reason why there's a handful of people out there that are doing better business is because of us. There's no external factors, it's all internal. To answer your question in less words, we focused on building relationships in the areas we sold in. We focused on bringing value to the transaction. And we focused on making sure that when we sell a property, it was for the most amount of money, which is fundamentally our job. So we got good at our job. We gave a shit about people. And our game is not rocket science. It's simple, old-fashioned hard work. We outworked our competition, and we cared. We still do.
Yeah, I mean, I can see it even from socials, some of the results and watching you as a celebrity, looking like a celebrity on Oxford Street, Tony, getting the results you are. It's pretty incredible
Yeah.
some of the pricing you're getting. But let's rewind. Sales associate from another agency. How long ago were you a sales associate?
I did 9 months as a sales associate to a mother-daughter duo in the middle of 2015 to the start of 2016. Um, which it's incredible when you think about it for those of you watching, and a lot of people in this who are in that information seeking information. You'll be at the start of your careers. Tends to be a lot of places when I go and speak and hear people's stories, they tend to be at the start of their career. From 2016, a standing start, right? Standing start. I knew 3 people that owned houses in Brisbane, and none of them were selling. I knew nobody. I didn't go to school in an elite school, which is another good advantage, I think, network wise. Nobody knew me, and I knew nobody. From a standing start in 2016, we were the number one agent in Queensland in 2021 with 283 million in sales. That was a 5-year period. It shows those of you that are willing to work what you can achieve. 5 years is a long time if you're bloody 15. As an adult, 5 years is like that. And it changed my life. So I was a sales associate for 9 months with another group. I learned a lot. Some of it was how real estate was done in 1980. Some of it was a little bit Wolf of Wall Street like, questionable. Um, so I quickly learned I needed to find my own path and be judged in my own efforts. But to answer your question, I was there about 9 months as a
Yeah.
sales associate.
And run me through that. So 10 years in real estate. If you could summarize it into 3 key lessons, if you could tell yourself as a sales associate 3 things, what would they be to be able to go on the journey that you've got?
I can see I'm parked here on the side of the road in the middle of my farm area, and there's a client of mine walking towards me, and I know he's going to be on this webinar. I can just feel it. I can feel no matter how I try to give him the flick, he's still going to come over.
Perfect. We'll find
Um,
out about his experience.
we'll find out about his experience. He's definitely how would I say it? Mightn't be politically correct if he does get involved in the video. What I was going to say, sorry, Jonathan, I was very much distracted. 3 key things.
3 things that have helped you to get to where you are.
There he is. He hasn't seen me. 2 dogs. 3 things. It's an interesting question, and all these questions, anybody watching this is us just having a chat. There's nothing here that's preempted. For me, the number one, if I was to summarize it very briefly, people, seems obvious. Some of the big groups in our game focus on geographical data. They focus on properties. Property is the commodity that you transact. It's people whose lives you impact. You get stuck in the property game and you'll be doing low comms and paying for marketing. You start to become an advisor of people, and you will be paid a premium to provide a premium service with the maximum tools to do so. So people is number one, how you treat them, how you make them feel. Number 2 for me is productivity. You got to be productive. I'm here in the car in between meetings. You just got to be active. You got to be productive. If you're not on the move, your competitor will be. So people, productivity, in order of importance. The last one is actually the first one, and that's team. Team. There's an expression that I quote all the time on any of these forums that I'm lucky enough to be on, and it's that if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And I do say I wanted to go far and fast, so I got a big team. and we just kept moving, you know.
Yeah, I think from Tony and I met at a steakhouse 3 years ago. We were just chatting on offline about 2.5 to 3 years ago, and the biggest thing I realized straight away is that you're just very much yourself, and you're proud of the person you are, and you don't try and be anyone else. And I think that's really refreshing, and I'm sure that a lot of your vendors probably don't see you as an agent, but more of a really close friend and an advisor. Is that fair to say?
That's fair to say. That's fair to say. And in our game, we always talk about success. I'll talk about failure for a minute. I was blessed enough to represent a family who needed a result. Property, without going into too much detail, had some challenges. We were in week 8. Property wasn't sold. Sometimes in our game, you have to admit defeat. The defeat for me was if I stand out of the way and pass the reins to somebody else, I think the client, I don't know that the client's going to walk away with more money, but they'll walk away with contentment around the reduced figure that they're going to have to accept. So we could have got the deal done, but I did. Long story short, and back to your comment, she said something to me in our exit meeting, right? So how many, like, let's talk about failure. Everyone talks about a success. We didn't sell our property last year. There was a dozen properties we didn't sell. Um, she said we trusted you implicably, and I would love to have you in my friend circle. And that to me off the back, and I said, I said, with all due respect, I'd prefer to have got you a result, because that's how I feel. You know, I don't want to be a nice guy who, nice guys finish last. I want to be a ruthless negotiator who delivers for my client. That's who I am. But I thought it was a lovely compliment to somebody who hadn't seen the best in me to still see the best in me. So, yeah, I don't know where I got to that point, but it was just something that meant a lot to me, you know.
Yeah, love it. Love it. And where do you like how have you become at so much peace of who you are and you don't go into a house and try and act like someone that you think they want you to be? What would you say that you've done to be able to just be who you are, and if they don't like it, that's on them?
First of all, don't assume for a second that I like the guy in the mirror, because when you are a perfectionist who's always focused on growing and being better and enhancing, it's a hard place to be. It's a hard person to be. You know, I like it's very hard for me. I just know that we're performing at a level that's not conducive with our maximum ability, and that irks me. So I I will take part of what you're saying on board, and that's, you know, I am true to myself. When I go to sleep at night, I can do just that. I can go to sleep. I know that I've left it all out there. I've done my best. I find that the greatest shortcut of all is the truth. You know, I've watched people lie and manipulate and bullshit vendors, and it's like, what are you doing? Like, just tell it as it is. Be who you are. I'm not for everybody. You know, you want to talk about my success? I'll get back to my failure. There's nobody on this webinar who's missed more business than me. So there's nobody on this webinar who's had more. Oh, hi Tony, thank you very much. It was great to catch up with you last week, but we're going with your competitor. I've heard that line more than you've eaten hot dinners. So um, who I am is not always who the person wants me to be, but when they hire me, that's the person they're getting.
Mm.
You know, the frustrating thing for me is there's better people at me than me in our industry at the listing table, but I don't believe there's anybody better than me at the negotiation table. And for me to, you know, I would like to get better in a lot of facets. I would like to be able to, I'm probably too, you could say honest and transparent, but I'm rigid. You know, this is my formula, this is what works. And I don't bullshit people into thinking that I'm going to do it their way. You know, you don't hire a barrister to represent you and tell them, well, this is what I want you to say to the judge. But in our industry, people will, because their friend sold a house in 1904, they'll want to tell you how to do your job, you know. And I just, you know, don't hire me and ask me to do, you know. So my bluntness is honesty and integrity, and just who I am. It's just who I am, but it's also has its limitations.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's why we got along so well, is that we're both proud of what we've done, but we feel like we're nowhere near where we could be and probably should be.
Oh man, what you've done, and again, your area, your sector is like mine. It's been around for decades and decades and decades. It has made people billionaires, and those billionaires have some of the smartest people in the game working with them, for them, on their businesses. And here comes you, a little tennis player with his long hair blowing in the wind, and just outperforms all of them. And that's the thing about our game. It doesn't discriminate. It really doesn't. You know, if you're a well-connected young guy or girl from an elite family in an elite suburb, you've got a marginal advantage. If you're a hungry immigrant who's going to work all day and all night and
Who they can't
outperform,
understand.
hey, they understand. Sign here. How hard is that to understand? Uh,
I love it. And run me through the day in the life of Tony O'Doherty now. What time do you get up? What time do you go to bed? And what do you do in between?
yeah, man, good question. It's changed drastically to that of me 10 years ago, 8 years ago, whenever I
Let's
started.
go. Let's go through both, Tony.
Okay, so discipline and structure now. Before, I was burning the candle at both ends. Socialite, didn't want to miss anything, always up for the banter, always up for the crack, as in the Irish terminology, crack. Um, just always up for life, loving life, full of energy. Um, Worked very hard, but didn't really have discipline outside of work. So didn't eat well, didn't train, didn't just at the moment, the last couple of years, a lot more structure. I get up at 4:40 every morning. I go to the gym at 5 a.m. 4 mornings a week. Come home, get ready for work. You need a morning routine. You can't just rock into work still half asleep 45 minutes after you got up. It's not conducive of being on. I also don't work as late as I used to. So to answer your question, 4:40 up, gym, in the office maybe 7:45, team meeting 8:15, and then my day is different. Some days it's listing presses all day, and I'm structuring my day even more so. When you do what we do, energy is the key word. So the number one factor for you and I and anybody else in here who wants to perform at a high level is energy. You know, you can't create it, you can't bottle it. You simply have to mind it. Every time you empty the battery, you can't just recharge it when you need it. You can't fake it in front of a vendor. So, yeah, like I mean, I like to finish work earlier now as well. Um, Most days when I say finish, I mean client facing. I'm not client facing until 8 or 9 o'clock at night, like I would have been at one stage. I like to finish earlier, but I'm always accessible to my vendors. High level of
What's earlier to you, Tony?
2 or 3 days a week. I'd try to be home by 4 p.m. Might continue to work until 6, teleconferences, catch up with vendors. Anytime a negotiation needs to be done, that's a 24/7 job. You do that. That's the only thing that stops me from being completely structured is a buyer decides to make an offer at 8 p.m. and before you know it, you're doing a deal at 11 p.m.
Yeah.
But that's the joys of the job. I mean, I compare it to I grew up in a farming background. If you want a 9 to 5, don't be a vet. If you want if you want to be a high performer in our game, well, get rid of your 9 to 5. So you can control how often you're client facing. You can't control how often you're accessible to your people being your vendors.
Run me through a listing presentation with Tony O'Doherty.
Run you through a listing presentation with Tony O'Doherty. That's a bit of an interesting one. Um, okay, I think there's a lot of factors to this. The listing price is when you're sitting in front of the people. Some people would tell you it's 3 hours long. I would say to those people that they need to find a hobby. For me, an hour is a long time. 45 minutes is probably enough. The fight is won or lost far away from witness is Muhammad Ali's famous quote. And what that means to me is it's the work that you do before the battle that governs how the battle goes. So the level of service you provide beforehand, where you met them, follow up. But the listing price, there's three things they want to know from you. They want to know what their property is worth, how you recommend they sell it, and what the relevant costs are. Beyond that, it's about building a relationship, them believing that they can trust you. In my case, I'm already in front of them because they know I have the results. They're just trying to decide if I'm the person for them. For some of the people here, you are in front of the vendor at the listing table because you were proactive enough. You showed the right amount of enthusiasm. You may not have sold $1 billion in real estate. You may not even have sold 50 million. But have you got the work ethic and do they believe they can trust you? The number one factor in the decision-making process is trust. So if I was to tell you tell you about listing presentations in a minute, the minute will be learn how to build trust. The rest will happen.
I love
Short
it.
minute.
That's perfect. So your listing presentations are 60 seconds.
You can trust me, honestly. I'm a real estate agent. That's how they go.
And delegation, I'd love to hear. I've had a few questions directly asking how you've been able to do that volume, and be able to provide that level of service and negotiation. I know you spoke a bit about your team. How have you structured that team, and how are you delegating on a daily basis to be able to focus on those dollar productive activities?
It's something we're very actively focusing on at the moment. I feel as though the numbers we've got to are the numbers that we're able to provide that high level of service. For us to grow, we need better structure. We describe it as swim lanes. Everybody needs a lane. If you have two people into one lane, somebody's going to drown. And you just, yeah, so structure is the answer. Everybody has to have a job, and the vendor needs to know whose job is what. I set them up at the intro meeting. Here's my skill set. Here's Denise's. Here's Kaylee's. Here's Ollie's. I'm most valuable to a vendor in a negotiation with the most amount of energy. My main job to them is to optimize their sale price in a nutshell. My main job is to optimize their sale price. Denise's main job is to get their property looking absolutely brilliant. Now there's crossovers in the swim lane. So Denise needs to get it looking brilliant. She needs to continue the communication throughout the campaign. But equally, I need to be communicating from start to finish, because for me to be a trusted advisor to them, they need to know that I care. They need to see me investing. They need to see me swimming in my lane. Otherwise, they're never going to take my advice if they think, geez, this guy's just showing up at the end. System structure, and the thing is, you need to get to your vendors before they get to you. If you're ringing them and you're proactive and you're all over stuff, they're less like they become less dependent. They just know they've got trust. I keep saying trust. They trust your process, so they're not hounding you. They're not ringing you 4 times a day because they've heard from you. They know that you're thinking of them, and they know you're doing what you need to do.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I've been able to spend a bit of time in Tony's team, so we're implementing Wingman into Tony's business at the moment, and being able to spend some time with Denise. You've got an elite team, Tony, and you've actually got them to buy into your vision. So they genuinely are like, they want this business to be more and more successful, and they genuinely believe when you say you're going to write 10 million in 1 year of GCI, they genuinely believe it, and that's been really cool to be able to see from an outsider looking in.
We got 25 minutes in there and you hadn't plugged one of your businesses. I'm going to turn it on you there for 30 seconds. What other businesses do you provide? What other services have you got? Tell us more. I know, but I want everyone to hear.
Yeah, so we work with Tony in Wingman, which is our offshoring solution to be able to do all the back end, to free Tony and his amazing team up to do the things that he should be doing, which is right now speaking to as many
Webinars.
people. Webinars to tell his competitors how to do
it. This is it's so unscripted that I had my opportunity when I was asked about my entire system, and I never mentioned your business.
Yeah,
I just
thanks,
wanted
Tony.
you to do it, man.
Good to see I'm adding some value.
Yeah.
And let's pivot a little bit, because I know you've got another listing presentation to go to. Personally, who's Tony O'Doherty and what's he do in his spare time?
Man, I'm very into the horses. I grew up with an equestrian background, so spent a couple of days on the Gold Coast at the Magic Millions buying foals, and I'm involved in horses here, involved in horses in Ireland. Sport, any type of sport. I love sport. Anything. I don't care what it is, I'll watch it. Sports, horses. I don't know what else. Family. Family's probably amongst the most important thing for me. We have that kind of Greek or Italian attitude towards family in Ireland, where it's just very, very important. Look, other than that, real estate does keep me busy, mate. So the spare time is limited.
Girlfriend, kids?
Why did you ask with a smile? You know I've no girlfriend because nobody will have me. No kids, not yet. And some of my competitors, they always highlight that. Oh, you've no kids, isn't that right? As if to say, yeah, you won't be doing this when you have kids, Matt. But who knows?
Will you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so love life. I'm trying to make you uncomfortable, Tony.
Next question.
But no, I think for anyone on here from as a friend and for someone who gets to be able to see Tony from an outsider looking in, it's a combination of his humility, his energy, his ability to be able to always see what he's done well, but always look into the future. It was the first thing you said on this webinar, is the thing you're excited most about. You're always looking in the future. And at ARIC, where I was at ARIC, and Ryan Serhant said, write down a list of all the things that you want to be this time next year and start acting like that person today. And I think that's Tony. If I could sum you up, that's probably what you're doing every day.
Thank you, John. Thank you, John. Oh boy, I don't know if it always feels that way, but I suppose, I don't know, being very self-critical is very taxing. Thank you guys for tuning in. I hope that you're doing your best to reach your potential, if that's what you want to do. If you want to be very successful and make a lot of people happy and make a lot of money, this is an industry to do so. If you want to work casually and have a good work-life balance, this is an industry to do so. Just make sure that whatever you choose, the people that interact with you are better for your service. And at least that way, you know that you've brought value, bring value to everybody you interact with. Thanks for having me, guys.
I'm going to leave it there. That's a real profound wisdom. And thank you so much for joining, guys. I'm going to do one more plug. I've got a masterclass that we run over a 4-week period. Tony's laughing. So I got, if you want to reach out to Wingman, you want to do a masterclass, we do this over a 4-week period. It's a little bit more structured. We won't be sitting in our cars, but would love anyone to join. So please feel free to join. And thanks so much for joining, Tony. You're a legend.
See you, mate. I was going to bag you, but I'm going to leave it be. See you guys. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. See you. Bye, bye, bye.